connect better. I would like to invite Dr. Ali Ahlam, the chairman of the Youth Empowerment Sector of RPSL Consortium, to address us this evening. Dr. Ali here. Mr. Saif Hanifa, can I call on you, please, to welcome everybody at the gathering? Dr. Ghefari, I think Mr. Saif Hanifa and Dr. Ali Ahlam aren't here. They were here before.
I think carry on, Ms. Tassi. I think you are doing a great job, so you can welcome the crowd.
All right. So on behalf of our PSL Consortium, I would like to invite you all. This is a project that has been organized by the Youth Empowerment Sector, and we're hoping we have as many youth as possible in the audience with us today. This has been the brainchild of one of the Youth Empowerment Sector committee members who really wanted to reach out to our youth and equip them with the skills needed to communicate in today's world. Today's session will be featuring mostly communication amongst relationships that we have with family members, with our colleagues, things like that, when it comes to our emotional communication relationships. On Wednesday night, we have another webinar set up where we will be looking more at the communication within the corporate world and that sort of thing. So we're trying to equip the youth with a very broad dimension to effective communication. All right. So moving swiftly on, let me explain the format of this webinar and introduce our presenter this evening. We will have a presentation for approximately 40 minutes, and we will then open the floor for questions. We encourage everyone to please type your questions into the chat box, and I will read them out to our presenter at the appropriate time. Feel free to use the chat box if there's anything you'd like to share, any comments you'd like to make. Please feel free. We'd like to have a healthy dialogue happening in the chat box if so needed. Our presenter this evening, Mrs. Slima Ahamed, is a dear friend of mine and a person I have learned immensely from. I have participated in previous webinars of hers and found her to be a very articulate and interesting presenter. She has a great deal of expertise in the area of effective communication and is sure to astound you today with her wealth of knowledge. Slima Ahamed is a counselor, relationship therapist, imagotherapist, and energy practitioner. She's attached to Sri Lanka counselors and complementary therapists. Trained under Dr. Nilkantha Fernandapillai and with the Alokia Counseling Center attached to the Family Planning Association, Slima helps many individuals and couples overcome emotional and psychological issues. She helps people develop themselves and grow to lead happier and fulfilling lives. She teaches people how to relax and cope with stress. And as an energy practitioner, she also helps in pain relief. In helping people lead better lives, she emphasizes that good communication skills are an absolute must to connect better with the people we interact with. Our theme today is just that: effective communication, communicate better to connect better. So as you can see, you are in for a treat today as Slima takes us on this journey of realization, of reflection, of exploration, and of discovery. So sit back and enjoy the ride. Over to you, Slima.
Thank you, Tassie. Thank you for your kind words of introduction. Can I share my screen now?
Please go ahead.
This is all right. Is this clear, Cassie? Can you see it? Yes?
Selma, it's beautiful. Please go.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so as Cassie introduced me, I am an energy practitioner and a relationship therapist as well. So today's topic is about effective communication and how to communicate better, to connect better with people. So this is very much tied with how the kind of relationships you have with others, be it with your family, friends, neighbors, whoever that you come in contact with. And also when we do communicate with others, it is also that we will be talking about the kind of energy that we will be projecting. And it is that same energy that others around us, they pick up the same energy. And so that is the same energy that is reflected back to us. So that is why it is so important that we learn proper communication skills. So why are good communication skills important? That's what we are going to look at now. I start off by saying that good communication helps lessen toxins and helps you de-stress. Now, this sounds a bit odd, or you might wonder how can good communication lessen the toxins in your body, or how can it help you de-stress, right? So it all depends on how we interact with others, whether we are reacting negatively to them or responding positively with others. And the way we respond, also the emotions that are created within us is what also creates the chemical reactions in our body, which has an effect, or which influences the way we think, the way we feel, and also our outward behavior. So therefore, our emotions are so important. And because our emotions are so important, it is so important that we also learn to communicate effectively, so that we connect positively with others, so that we make others feel good about themselves, and they also think good about us, and we feel good about ourselves as well. And now we go to the more common, or the conventional reasons that you may have heard as to why good communication skills are important. Some of you may know these already, but I'm just going to quickly go through these again for the benefit of some youth who are here. So I hope this helps, right? To convey our thoughts, this one of the reasons why it is important, so that we express ourselves, and we are able to convey our thoughts and feelings effectively. And then we are also accepted positively by the other person. And then it also helps us understand other people better when we communicate effectively. And it also helps us to be understood by the others. It, of course, improves interpersonal skills with family, friends, neighbors, colleagues, and people that you meet in your everyday life, right? And when your relationships, even in your personal capacity, when they are better, when you learn to communicate better, and then your relationships get better because of that, it also improves in your professional life, because it helps you to have better emotional, psychological, and physical health as well. So let's look at what makes us communicate the way we do. Right? There could be many reasons. I have just put down a few here, but there could be others as well. So one of the key points that we have to remember is we communicate the way we do to a large extent also because of the personality that we have, and also what we have learned since our childhood. So our childhood plays a key role in the way we interact with others. And so this your childhood memories, sometimes you may consciously, and you may remember your childhood, but sometimes it may be very early childhood experiences which could have been happy or sad or traumatic, but it would have affected you in affected your unconscious in such a way that it does influence the way you interact with the others around you, right? And apart from your childhood, there are also the experiences that you have in your everyday life, which also has an impact on how you deal with others, right? And then there may be unresolved issues, you know, something which is worrying you, something which is troubling you, something which maybe you are a victim of bullying somewhere. So all these things also will affect the way you interact and communicate with others around you. Then also another reason or another way that this could affect you, the way you communicate with others, is being absorbed in yourself, or being so engrossed with yourself and with your everyday life. It's like a rat race. You're running around trying to get through the day and every day, that we sometimes kind of forget how we should be connecting with another human being and how we should be communicating with another person. And then also we sometimes tend to take people for granted. The people around us who have the most amount of interaction with us in our day-to-day lives, they are the ones whom we take for granted almost all the time, right? Because we just assume that they are going to be around for us all the time, and we are not sensitive to the way they feel, and we can be callous sometimes in what we say or how we say things. So this is another important aspect that you should be paying attention to. And then, of course, our health, be it our physical, psychological, or emotional health, all these things also impact on the way we communicate and interact with others, right? So it could be that you are very healthy, or you have just average health, or maybe you are not too well, either physically or psychologically or emotionally, but all these things also impact the way you communicate with others. So today I will not be going into the health aspect of it, because there is a very limited amount of time today and there's so much to talk about. But I will be going through some important aspects as to how you could improve yourself in communicating better. So let's look at how we communicate. Just a short snapshot. There are two broad ways of communicating with others. So it could be verbal and it could be through nonverbal cues. So under verbal, there are the words that we actually use. So that comes under what we say. But what we say is not the only thing that is important. Paralinguistics also come into play here. That is how we say it, right? The volume of our voice, whether we are yelling or whether we are just modulating our voice properly, or whether we are murmuring, the tone of our voice and the speed, how fast you speak or how slow you speak, right? All these things are really important when you're communicating with someone. Now let's look at the non-verbal cues, right? So these are some of the things that that we will be going through in more detail in the following slides. Your facial expressions, the gestures you use, the kind of hand movements you use, the eye contact, whether you maintain eye contact or you don't maintain eye contact, your posture, probably the way you're standing, or even maybe the way you're sitting, right? And haptics is touch. Touch plays a really important role in communicating with others. Again, we will be looking at it in more detail a little later. And also space. Space is also something which I will be talking to you about. So these are some of the nonverbal cues that we will be looking at soon. But before we go into all that, I just want you to really pay attention to this, right? To be mindful. Okay. I want you to be aware of yourselves a little more, right? when you speak, try and focus on yourself and try to become aware of the kind of words you're using, right? What are the words that you're using, right? There may be sometimes patterns, certain ways that you speak all the time. And you may also, when you start becoming aware of how you speak or what you say, you will also start becoming aware of how others speak as well, right? Because you're becoming more mindful of your surroundings, right? And then you also, I advise you to note as to how you are expressing yourself. Remember, I spoke about paralinguistics earlier, right? So you start becoming mindful of how you are talking as well. And then try to recognize how you feel it in your body, because when we are talking to people, when we are communicating, there are also emotions that are created in our minds, right? Within us, right? So try to feel those emotions in your body, right? Because we hardly put any thought into it, and so we don't seem to realize the kind of effect our words have on our emotions, the kind of emotions we are creating, and also how it affects different parts of our body, right? Where do you feel your emotion in your body? Are you having an increased heart rate? Are you sweating? Are you breathing faster? Are you having a tightening in the chest, or maybe tightening in the forehead? Pain somewhere? Sometimes the pain can be on your arm, or on your knee, maybe, right? Do you have your hair standing on end? Do you feel butterflies in your stomach? Right? You have sweaty palms. Do you have weak knees, trembling lips, tears? Maybe you choke, you can't say anything. Maybe if you're really emotional, sometimes you start coughing, or maybe your vision becomes blurred. So these are some of the things that could happen to you physically when you are emotionally charged, when you are communicating with someone. Now, when I say emotionally charged, it could be either positive or negative. You may, for example, have butterflies in your stomach when you see someone whom you have a crush over, right? Or when you are angry, you will have different kind of reaction, right? So be aware of yourself, of your breathing, whether you're breathing fast, whether you're breathing slow, whether they are short, shallow breaths, or whether they are deep breaths, right? Now, you might wonder, why is this so important, right? Why should we become mindful of our emotions and how and where we feel it in our body? This is important because when we start becoming aware of ourselves more and more mindful of ourselves, we start recognizing our emotions and the way we respond or react to circumstances and people. And then it will help us to get to have more control over ourselves. And that is where then it will help us to also, if there are areas where we think change is necessary, then we could try and improve ourselves in those particular areas. But you will not be able to do that if you don't first become totally aware of yourself. So in communicating with others, I would advise you to just make these a part of your life. When you speak, try and be very clear in your speech. Try and be calm, and try and slow down. Don't speak fast, right? And in addition to that, while communicating with people, these things really increase the positivity in the interaction you have with another person. When you appreciate someone for them being really helpful, or someone who probably checked up on you when you were ill, or whatever, right? Appreciate and say thank you wherever it's due. And of course, we are all human. No matter what we learn and no matter how well we are trained, we are all human and we tend to forget sometimes. We can get emotional, but and we do make mistakes. But what is most important is to be able to say sorry when it does happen, right? And so the damage is lessened then. Now, when communicating with someone, active listening is also really important. When we talk about active listening, it is about giving full attention to who you are communicating with, right? And how you pay full attention to the person in front of you. We will be looking at some of those aspects as well. But just remember that if somebody is talking to you, or if you are talking with someone else, and if you're having an exchange, if you're communicating, uh, please pay full attention. Now we come to mirroring. Mirroring, I'm just going to give you an example so that you kind of understand the concept of mirroring. Let's say somebody is relating to you something that happened while on their way to office, right? So they're saying, I just came to this junction, and as I was going to turn right, someone came on the front, on the left, and just banged into me, right? So now this person is telling you this. So you are now actively listening, and then you mirror the person by saying, oh, so you're saying while you were turning right, somebody came on the left and banged into you. So you are basically repeating, not verbatim, but still you have got the idea. So the moment you mirror the person when somebody else is talking, they kind of understand that you are truly listening, right? And when someone knows that another person is truly listening to you, they also know that you truly care, right? And then validation is so important in our day-to-day lives. Like, I'm going to give you another example. If somebody says, I think it is a good idea to first meet the dealer before we go and meet the advertiser, right? So you validate it. Of course, if it does make sense, but if you do have a different opinion, you can always give that as well. But if not, if it makes sense, don't just say, yeah, okay, don't, but instead you can do better, right? So you can say, yeah, it makes sense, right? You're right, right? It makes sense if we first meet the dealer and then go to the advertiser, right? Or you're right in saying this, right? So the other person immediately kind of opens up towards you, and then the person is more accepting and open to what you have to say. Then the next point that I would like to make is I and my emotions. Now here, the I is not a selfish I that I'm referring to. For example, if you have something that you have to convey to the other person who's in front of you, maybe something which the other person is doing, which you are not happy about, right? And you need to let the other person know. So a really good way to go about it is to say, to start off with your emotions, to say, I feel worried when you do this, right? Or I'm afraid that something might go wrong, or I'm afraid that this relationship might not work because this is happening, right? So the moment you start off with your emotions, the other person, it's easier for the other person to empathize with you because they understand them, because you're talking about your emotions, and emotions are the way to go to connect with people, right? Now, it is not only about our emotions. So that's the next point that I'm coming to, the other's emotion, right? The other person's emotion. So this is where empathy comes in. So when you are talking to someone, you show that you are showing empathy, that you are trying to look at what the other person is saying from their perspective, right? Basically, you're putting yourself in their shoes, right? And trying to understand from the other person's point of view. So you can empathize when somebody is telling you something. You can say, I can imagine how you must be feeling, or oh, how terrible that is. You must be really sad, right? So you are then empathizing, you are identifying with the emotions of the other person who is talking to you, right? The word and is the next point, but this is tied to another point that is coming later, and so I shall leave it for a little later. In addition to all this, if there is something which you aren't very sure about, which you need more information on, you can always ask questions. you can always clarify, but just make sure that you do it politely and like how I said earlier, the kind of words you use and also how you ask, right? Let's go on to the next slide now. So I can't tell you enough as to how important this is, the smile. Practice this all the time as much as possible. The more you practice it, the more you will realize what a lot of doors will open for you and how positively people will respond to you. Because the smile creates a lot of positive energy, and the people around us, they pick up the positive energy. Whatever the energy that we are sending out is what we receive. So when we project positive energy, we receive it. So smile. So these are some other things that you can do while you communicate with others. Like, for example, you turn your body fully towards the person whom you are communicating with. You don't kind of turn aside halfway, or you should not be involved in doing something else while talking to someone, right? Maybe making tea or scrolling on the phone while you are talking. Please don't do that. If you want to effectively communicate with the person with you, then please turn fully towards them, do your active listening, and make eye contact. Don't look away from the person, make eye contact, because that is where the primary connection takes place. And use your palm. This also is connected to another point, which is coming a little later. So I'm going to leave that too for a while, and then we go to touch. I can't tell you how important touch is when we communicate with people, but of course it depends on the culture you come from and the situation, the circumstance. So be mindful of those. It's not as if you can go around touching strangers, but usually a handshake should do. But if you are a little more closer than that, or even if you are talking to someone, let's say, who is junior to you or younger than you, a pat on the back, or if it's a friend, maybe an arm around the shoulder or a quick hug. These things just open up, a flood of positive energy. The feel good hormones all start working in you, and then you are able to communicate more effectively. So these are some of the things that you should watch out for when you are upset about something or angry, or you're stressed. Raising your voice, right, is a total no-no. You should not be doing it, because it is going to affect your communication very negatively. And you keep your voice down. Can everyone please off your mics, if you don't mind? All right, thank you. And then speaking fast when emotionally charged is something which you should be mindful of and try and avoid it. Try and slow down as much as possible, particularly when you are very upset about something. Don't speak fast. Slow down the pace of your speech. And when you are communicating with someone, try a bit. Now, when you are very aware of yourself, remember we spoke about being mindful. So control your anger. If you're angry, let's see how you can control it as we go along. Don't mock someone, or don't be cynical. Like, for example, saying like, yeah, right, I know how you work, right? Things like that. And we come to the you word. Remember, I told you about speaking about I and my emotions, right? When you have to say something to someone, if you're upset about something and you need to let the other person know. So you say, I am really, it makes me really sad when you do this, right? But the opposite of that is what you should not be saying, you are doing this, right? That is not what you should be doing. Or if you say, you are being very rude, or you are very selfish, right? The moment you say that, you are accusing the other person, and the other person puts their defenses up, and your communication, the effective communication, breaks down, right? So be mindful. Instead of saying you start off with your emotions first, as I spoke earlier, to say I feel sad when, I feel worried when. Try and practice those word stems. Here we come to but. Now, but can also be a very negative word. For example, if you're talking to someone and you say, you know, I like what you did, but, and then you continue, the word but has already negated what you've said before, right? So you've you've already kind of criticized the other person, even if you haven't really criticized, right? So this but is a very dangerous word when it comes to effective communication. But if you do have a different point of view to express, you could say, I really like what you did. Wouldn't it also be better, or can't we enhance it by also doing this, right? So you could try that. And also remember earlier I told you the word and, I will be using it here. I will be talking about it here, right? So the opposite of but is and. Either you say, I really like what you did, full stop, and then you continue, it would enhance, don't you think, if we also do this? Or you can say, I really like what you did, and it might be also better if we do this, right? So either you have a full stop after the positive comment that you're making, or use the word and, right? Be very watchful about using the word but. Bringing up the past is something which you should not be doing if it is a negative past. For example, remember last time also, you know, you did this, right? And this is what happened, right? Or you keep repeating this, or hitting where it hurts, like I can just imagine why your husband left you, or I can imagine why your girlfriend left you, or you are what you are. Can you expect anything better because your father was like this or your mother was like this, right? So this is hitting where it hurts. When you say things like this, your communication breaks down immediately. There is no way that you can positively connect with the other person, right? And these two words, always and never, are another two words which you should be very careful about when you use it. Like, for example, when you say, you're always late, right? Or you never come on time, or you're never clean, right? So when you use these words, basically you are then implying that there is no room or no space for change when you say always or never, right? So psychologically, you're telling the other person there's no point, that you're not going to change, right? So we should not be using it. Try to avoid it as much as possible. And also, while communicating with others, stonewalling is something which we should not be doing. Stonewalling is basically like, now I spoke to you all this time about what you should be saying, how you should speak, and also what you should not be saying. But stonewalling is a total absence of speech, in the sense you just withdraw and go silent, and you don't communicate with the other person at all. That also can be very damaging, because when you don't communicate, you just break off that channel of communication, and then you can't connect at all. So these are other things that we should watch out for, like slamming doors when we are angry, or, you know, banging things, or just walking away, walking out on someone, or being immersed in your phone or computer or TV, or just total silence, like how I spoke about earlier, or your facial expression, like frowning, mocking, or rolling your eyes, oh my God, here she goes again, kind of thing, or avoiding eye contact, right? It also breaks the connection that you have with the other person. And then your posture, how you stand. For example, you can look very intimidating if you kind of stand with your legs slightly spread apart with your hands on your hips. It might look very intimidating for the other person. Of course, it is also a posture of confidence, but that is in a different kind of context, right? But here we are talking about communicating with someone, and in a setting like that, the way you stand, even the way you sit, all that matters in how you connect with the other person. And then, of course, another thing that you should not be doing is using threatening gestures, like, for example, even if you are not violent, threatening to be violent, raise your hand as if you are going to slap the other person. It's just completely unacceptable, right? So please be mindful about all these things. And another thing that you should watch out for is invading personal space. What is invading personal space? We all have a certain personal space, like a few feet outside our body, where, sometimes you realize when someone comes too close to you, you get a bit uncomfortable, right? You don't feel quite good, right? So it depends on who you get close to, because it has to be someone who you are very close to, you have a very close friendship, or it can be family. But other than that, if it is a total stranger, or even if it is just an acquaintance or a neighbor, or a work colleague maybe, right? You getting too close, it is not about being angry and threatening, but just making the other person feel uncomfortable when you get too close, right? Because you don't invade the personal space of people. And also different cultures look at these things differently. Sometimes a person of a different gender might feel uncomfortable when someone from the opposite sex gets too close to you if you're not too close to the person. So these are all things that you should be careful about. And once you have kind of made the other person feel uncomfortable, then it doesn't it's not very easy to start communicating effectively, right? So that is why I am mentioning all these things to you. Some of the other things that you should watch out for is like turning your back when somebody is talking to you, or you kind of hold your temples and rub your temples when somebody is talking to you, because the other person then thinks that you're being a nuisance to that person, right? So effective communication breaks down, right? And then you watch your index finger. Now, remember, I also spoke about the palm earlier, and I said I will talk to you about it, right, a little later. So this index finger can be, again, very intimidating, very threatening, and very negative. It sends out a lot of negative energy. For example, when you are communicating with someone, and particularly if you are having a difference of opinion, if you keep talking to the person like this, the other person is going to go on the defensive, right? So instead, it is quite natural that we use our hands, all kinds of gestures we use when we talk. It is quite natural that we use our hands. So you use your palm instead of your finger. So if there's something that you need to say and you naturally need, you move your hands around, you kind of talk like this rather than do this, right? Something else that you should not be doing is a lack of response. When somebody is trying to communicate with you, a lack of response is not good at all. Looking disinterested or looking bored, these are things which are not going to help you in the way you communicate with someone else. So now if you're angry or upset about something, there are things that you can do. You know very well that we can't, there's only a certain, we can't really control others or change others, but we do have control over ourselves and how we respond to situations and people, right? So if you're angry or upset about something, if you're standing, please sit down. You will realize, now if you're mindful, you will realize that your breath becomes really fast and shallow, right? So slow down, take slow, deep breaths, right? Make sure that you don't raise your voice, keep your voice low and calm, and don't accuse. It may be that the other person has done something wrong, and maybe you're upset, and it is justified that you're upset, right? But at that particular moment, you do not accuse, because that is not going to help. Your objective is not to, win in a competition, to prove that I'm right and the other person is wrong, but rather to achieve an objective, right? Something that you need to get done or something that you don't want to do, right? But accusing is not going to help you to reach that objective. So when you accuse, what happens is they will defend themselves, they will put up their walls, and then all communication breaks down, right? So you don't accuse, and then you don't also try to defend your position immediately. I understand that there may be situations where you need to explain yourself. But when you are also emotionally charged, it won't do anyone good when you are trying to defend your position, right? So leave it for some time, leave that explaining for a little later when you are a little more calmer, okay? And also in a very difficult situation or a challenging situation, you request for timeout, right? You say, okay, I'm upset. Just give me some time. I need some time to calm myself down. It is more about yourself than more than the other person. So the other person immediately puts their defenses down, right? Because you don't say, I will talk to you when you're calm, but you rather say, I need some time and I will talk to you when I'm a little calmer. And then you can also maybe ask for an appointment, say when do you think is a good time to talk? Maybe a little later. Is it now? Is it later? If the other person says, no, not now, I can't talk to you now, say okay and go back and ask again. And eventually you will get that time to actually sit down and explain whatever that has upset you. You should also try and make these a part of your life. Meditation really helps in the way we respond to situations and also to make us feel better. Deep breathing is so important, not only in communication, but also to cope with ourselves and to cope with stress. Walks are important. Spiritual guidance is really important, no matter what faith you belong to or what beliefs you have. Spirituality really helps, and also seeking help. When I talk about seeking help, I talk about, of course, you can go to a family or a trusted friend, but be mindful, sometimes they are as emotionally uh, tied to you as much as you are. So it might sometimes help to go to a trained professional like a counselor, so they can objectively help you to maybe see the situation from different perspectives and lay all the options on the table and help you to make better decisions. So these are other ways that you can increase your connection. Like you need to respect individuality and differences. You must recognize that people have differences in perspectives and opinions, and then you must respect that, right? And also, this is so important to recognize that there is no absolute truth in life, and that there can be many truths, right? What you think is not the only truth in life. There can be many truths, right? Just recognizing that in itself is really helpful to us in our journey. And also in any kind of interaction, you agree to disagree if necessary, respectfully. And you should be prepared and ready, open to consider different viewpoints, right? Be very objective and not subjective, not to bring in your biases and your experiences and past into whatever you're looking at, right? So being objective is so important. And then empathy is so important, to put yourself in the other person's shoes and try and look at the issue in hand from the other person's point of view. And if all these are not helping, you can all reach out to a third party if necessary, which is acceptable to both of you or to all the parties concerned, right? Somebody who's knowledgeable in the subject, or going to a trained professional. It can be just anyone. It can be a medical professional if it is something to do with health, or maybe a counselor or psychotherapist or a professional in another field if you're, for example, having a difference of opinion in your workplace, right? And then also it is important to give time to, if there is a difficult situation or a difficult issue at hand, you give it time and you think over it. And then, of course, consensus is so important because sometimes it is not the majority decision itself, which is always the right decision. Just as much as it is important to consider different viewpoints, coming to a consensus is very important in effectively communicating with others and to keep those communication lines open positively. You can also increase the connection that you have with others by being very respectful, just as much as you want to be respectful, you respect others. It is so important that you are sensitive to others, right? They may be having issues of their own which you don't know about. And also you try and understand the person. I know we can't totally understand others, but we can at least try to be sensitive to the kind of background they're coming from, the past that they may, some baggage that they may be carrying from the past, and be forgiving. We always expect to be forgiven by others, so we can also try and forgive others as well. It is so important not to judge others, to be open, because there is really no, as I said, there is no absolute truth, there is no absolute right and wrong. There are a whole lot of gray areas in life, and being kind and compassionate as a human to another human is so important. And treating others the way you would like to be treated is the most important thing. So all these help in the way we communicate with others, right? So we are almost at the end of the presentation, but I would like to reiterate again, emphasize again, I said it earlier right at the beginning, what you project is what you get. Because life is like a mirror, and what we project to others, how we project it, is the same thing that we receive. Thank you, and I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Slima, so much for taking us on this momentous journey. I think the road we've traveled together certainly equipped us for a better life. So let's turn over to our audience. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them into the chat box. If you'd like to be a risk taker, you can raise your hand and we're welcome to you asking your question to the presenter. So, Slima, can I ask you a question that's come through? Could you tell us how to slow down our breathing when we are angry or stressed?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that, Tassie, because it is so important. So there are different breathing techniques and different relaxation techniques that we can practice in our day-to-day lives. They are very simple and they don't take hours, they just take a few minutes. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take about less than maybe about 30 seconds now to show you something which you can practice, which when you're upset or angry about something, or if you're too excited, or if you're stressed, or if you're worried, you can just practice this breathing technique. Okay, so I'm just going to show you square breathing. Some of you may already know it. All right, so you just imagine that there's a square in front of you. All right, so I'm going to start breathing I'm going to count. So to the count of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you breathe, right? And then to another count of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you hold your breath in. Then to another count of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you slowly let go. And then to another count of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you don't breathe in again. You just stay that way. You let your breath out for this count of 4, and then you wait for another count of 4 before you start breathing again. All right. So we're just going to do 2 cycles, which is not going to take more than 30 seconds. And while you do that, you can practice it at home by yourself and try and close your eyes and be quiet, be comfortable. That's the most important thing. And then focus on your breath. Once you get used to it, you start focusing on your breath and you start visualizing the breath that goes into you, that fills you up, that cleanses you, that nourishes you, and that leaves your body, right? Just totally cleanse you.
Selma, can I just ask if you can stop screen share so we can see you on the screen?
Oh, okay. I did. I think I did.
I can still see your blank screen now. Is it just me? Sorry.
Does that help?
Ah, beautiful. Now we can really focus on your technique. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to start now. I hope everyone is ready. Please do join. I'm going to count to the count of 4. First, you breathe in. Okay. Relax. If you're wearing specs, you can take them off. Right. Now you start breathing in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath to the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you stay that way, totally empty. 1, 2, 3, 4. You breathe in again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe. Keep your breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you stay that way. 1, 2, 3, 4. You keep practicing it, then you get better at it and you realize how much you become calmer, and it's really going to help you.
I straight away felt much calmer, Selma. Thank you for that. Really good.
You're welcome.
I hope the others tried it out as well. Selma, there's another question. With all the apprehension and uncertainty surrounding us with the pandemic raging, what tips can you give us to be secure in our relationships?
So with the present circumstances around us, the question is how we keep our relationships secure. Did I get you right, Tassie?
Yes, that's what the question says, yes.
Okay. So just as much as we, in different times of our lives and different generations have gone through different kinds of stressors. So this is the kind of stress that we are facing, the pandemic. And we have handled it quite well so far, haven't we? I know we've had issues, but I think we should be looking at. Actually, I think it is really important to have a tiny journal or to note down on a daily basis to things that we can be grateful for, things that are very positive and which is really going good for us. If we note those down, then our focus is more on the positives than on the negatives, and that is going to help us deal with the stressors that we are facing these days. I do understand that it's very difficult, and with that, also, like for example, the kind of topic that we spoke about today, communication skills. This is really important in helping you to maintain your relationships. Relaxation techniques that you can do, meditation, prayer, maybe even engaging in your hobbies. If you have some time, maybe gardening, reading, listening to music, dancing, playing with your pet or children, playing games. These are all things which can de-stress you. The more you become de-stressed, the more your relationships get better, in the sense because you start connecting better with the people around you. I hope that helps. But still, if there are any issues, I think you really need to, if you can't handle it on your own, if you can't cope certain situations, then you need to reach out to a counselor.
Thank you so much, Simon, because actually you've hit the nail on the head, because being a teacher myself, I often hear conflicting views, because you hear some people talk about, being under lockdown, being under curfew, it brought families together. They did so many things together. They, they grew together. They did. On the other side, you hear people talking about how the interaction with the outside world made it so difficult. So I think people handle situations in different ways, isn't it? And
yes,
I think it's really, thank you for that. That's just very, very enlightening. Thank you.
we are all not the same, right? All of us are different in so many different ways.
And I think our
that-
relationships are different, right?
Yes,
So,
and so that's what makes life beautiful as well. So we just need to learn to look inward and try and identify what we are not doing quite right and work on those.
okay. Sima, will anger management help in better communication?
Yes, of course, because the way we communicate is the way, as I spoke about earlier, right at the beginning, our personalities have a lot to do with the way we communicate with others around us, right? So if we are prone to anger issues, for various reasons, like I said, maybe even childhood trauma, early childhood trauma, maybe, or some other stresses that are really going on in your life with regard to your health or with regard to your finances, your financial situation, or whatever it is, or maybe you're unemployed or you're worried about your children. So all these things can also affect you. I'm not justifying anger at all. Please don't misunderstand me. But these things can affect the way you respond to others or react to others. But if you are angry, it is going to affect your communication negatively. So you really need to address your anger issues if you do have them.
Thank you very much, Selma. Selma, people say if we grew up in an environment which is not conducive to communicating well, we grow up to struggle with our interactions throughout our life. What is your opinion on this?
Yes, so it is very true, right? As I said earlier, our childhood, and the experiences have a whole lot to do with what we become as we are, right? It has such a lot of influence. I mean, there is no way you can kind of dismiss it. Okay, but at the same time, there's always good news, right? The good news is that we are constantly making new pathways in our brain, right? Our thought patterns, the way we think. And those thought patterns are the ones that actually affect the kind of emotions we feel or how we feel emotions and how it affects our behavior and then how we interact with others with regard to those behavior. Okay, so just as much as childhood experiences do affect positively or negatively the personality of an adult, those can be changed as well. So that is the good news. Okay, so there is something called, maybe you may have heard, maybe neuroplasticity, the way you think. You can change the way you think. So there is, for example, in psychotherapy, there is neuro-linguistic programming. You help people think differently, right? It is a very kind of scientifically proven, or there's a lot of research that has been done on these things, right? So you can change these things as well. So there is always hope, no matter how bad the situation is.
Thank you, Selma. There's one last question here, which is quite an interesting one. How do we communicate with a narcissist?
Okay, so some of you may know who a narcissist is, some of you may not know who a narcissist is. So in very general terms, if I was to describe a narcissist, maybe someone who's very difficult to deal with, somebody who's seen as selfish, and somebody who is not sensitive to others, right? A very basic description for the benefit of people who may not know who a narcissist is. So when you, I do understand it is difficult. Now we can talk about all these communication skills and all that, but when it comes to someone who has these traits, it's very difficult to communicate with them. But who is saying that the other person is a narcissist? You know, it's very easy for us to believe when we are not able to interact positively with someone else, to kind of write them off and say that person is a narcissist. You know, this is what they are doing, and therefore there is no way I can interact with this person. Either it can be family, it can be someone else, maybe a workmate, whatever, right? But it is not for the average person to determine whether the other person is a narcissist or not, right? Again, it is probably a psychologist or a psychotherapist who might be able to identify certain narcissistic traits and then, you know, stick these labels. I'm not a fan of labels anyway. But what we must understand is that even if a person is a narcissist or something else, they are also what they are because of their past experiences. Now, again, I am not justifying their bad behavior at all, but I'm only trying to kind of make us aware of empathy, right? To realize that people are what they are because of what they have experienced, and sometimes they are not even aware of their experiences and how they have been affected by their past, right? So the moment we realize that, and there is a little bit of empathy to the other person, immediately the energy that we emit, right, becomes not as negative as before, at least, right? So you can reduce the negative way the other person whom you call a narcissist, the way they are reacting towards you. You will see a difference in the way they are responding to you when we start empathizing with them. Of course, there can be situations where it is totally difficult, where you can't make that connection because there are people with a whole lot of narcissistic traits as well. But if it is not possible to connect in the way that you should be connecting, then of course you need to reach out to a counselor maybe and seek help. Sometimes the other person may not even come. They may not agree to come and meet a counselor or a psychotherapist, but still it will make a whole world of difference in your life if the other person is not willing to come, if you still seek help, because there are certain things, in the way you respond. You can learn certain ways of responding to the other person, which will lessen the damage that is being caused to you. I hope that helped, Tassie.
Yes, I think so. Are there any other questions from the audience? I have nothing else on my private message.
I see some questions on the chat box as well.
Do you see some questions?
Being absorbed and engrossed, is it the same as being a narcissist? Being absorbed and engrossed is not the only trait, to determine whether a person is a narcissist or not. But it could be one of the traits, in the sense, if you're so totally callous about the other person's feelings, if you are so selfish that you are not willing to consider what the other person wants, or just try and listen attentively to what the other person is trying to say, that could be one of the traits of a narcissist. But just being absorbed and engrossed only does not make the other person a narcissist. I hope that helped. And there's another question I see: in a crisis situation, how do you fortify communication skills in a crisis situation? In a crisis situation, again, first and foremost, we need to learn coping skills. we need to learn to relax. So breathing is really important. It can really, really help. As I spoke about earlier, there are different relaxation techniques that you can follow. Meditation, prayer, all these things help. And we are human. Again, as I mentioned before, sometimes we forget, and we can also get caught up in the situation and get totally blown away. That is why we have each other, family, friends, to sometimes remind each other that we are losing it, right? And we can always come back. And if we have hurt someone else, we can always apologize as well. So crisis situations can be managed with the people around us, with the help of people around us.
Thank you, Slima. I think ego plays a lot in this, isn't it? I think the moment you're able to apologize and you're able to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I think that counts a lot.
But people are generally not bad, because as I told you earlier, there are no really good people, 100% or bad people. We all have so much of gray in us, right? So like the different shades of gray, from dark gray to light gray. So I think sometimes people are just not aware about how they are responding or reacting to others, how they are, hurting others, or how they speak. Sometimes they just need only a little help to try and be more aware of themselves. That's all they need. With that little bit of help, they can just totally change. So ego again, and we are always evolving. We are always not the same. So we can always change for the better. Define communication, please. So communication is maybe trying to convey an idea, to express yourself. It cannot only be verbal, it can also be non-verbal. Yeah. Any other questions?
I don't have any more in my private box. Is there anybody else at the meeting who has a question for Slima?
So these are all the questions I see so far.
Okay, so like I said before, Slima, thank you so much for what you have shared with us today. You've certainly equipped us for a better life with, I think, greater understanding of our key relationships.
I hope so. It's my pleasure as well, Tassie. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
So if there are no more questions, going once, twice. All right, I think people are giving us thank yous now. So if there are no more questions, I take this opportunity to thank you, Slima Ahamed, for inspiring us to make the necessary changes to fulfill our lives with more effective communication. I think your insightful words today will certainly enable all of us to take the necessary steps to mend the cracks in our relationships and ensure a brighter tomorrow. I would now like to call upon Mr. Shiraz Latif to address us. Mr. Latif is Director, Chief Executive at Hummingbird. He's on the Board of Management at RPSL Consortium and on the Executive Committee of the Youth Empowerment Sector. I invite you, Mr. Shiraz Latif, to share your concluding remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Tasidalan. It's indeed a pleasure to listen to Slima Ahamed. It was a very insightful presentation, and you can always learn no matter what age you are at. And also sometimes it's a good thing to unlearn and relearn things, because sometimes when we know certain things, we take things for granted and we never take the initiative to look at the way we do things. So when we go through programs like this is a time for us to unlearn the things that we have learned over the years and relearn it. So that's a good way to educate ourselves as an ongoing process. So I thought it was a great program today. And also we must admire the participants who have been excellent in asking questions and clarifications. So that shows the engagement. So this is not the only program. So we will be having more going on like this. So therefore I would like to, as a concluding remark, thank all those people who are involved, especially starting with Ms. Slima Ahamed for sharing her knowledge and expertise. It was an excellent program, and the pointers that she gave made very good sense. And also I must thank Mr. Sidalan for taking the initiative and coordinating it, anchoring it today, and making it a success. And putting up a program like this is also not easy. So therefore, I would like to thank the team at Youth Empowerment who have been very consistent on putting out programs like this. And also there will be more coming in. So great job from the chairperson to the rest of the team at Youth Empowerment. Also Dr. Gafaridullah Bandan for helping us to facilitate this with the support and logistics involved. And also the RPSL board and the members who have been supportive and spreading the word of all the programs that we do. And last but not least, as they always say, the participants who have been very engaging and very supportive, and also be very enthusiastic. So that's the great thing about it. So with that, I would like to say thank you very much to all, and let's inshallah meet at the next program like this. And I would like to hand over to Mr. Sidalan to conclude.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Shiraz Latif. So on behalf of RPSL Consortium, thank you so much for being here today. Your support means a lot to us. As much as we all can do in today's context, I think organizing webinars, we've been doing it for 2 years now, I think, on the trot. Now that the country is open, I think the response at webinars is diminishing a little bit because people are starting face-to-face meetings now, which is also wonderful to get life slowly back into how it was before. We have another program coming up on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, same time. We will be sharing the flyer. That would be with Mr. Ismail A. Aziz, who will be talking about effective communication through the corporate world and the outside world. So please join us on Wednesday night as well. Thank you so much again, Ms. Slima Ahamed, for being here as our presenter, for accepting the invitation to share your knowledge through the RPSL Consortium platform. And we truly appreciate everything we've learned from you this evening. I certainly have learned a great deal, like I always do with all of your webinars. Thank you so much, Salman. Thank you to everybody who is here, and look forward to seeing all of you. Please pass the word around to other people. Wednesday night, look out for the flyers that we will be sharing on social media and on the RPSL Facebook page and so on. Please do look out, and please like the page, and please join our endeavors. We have a few more programs coming up in February. Please join us and come on board and give us your support. Thank you very much. Dr. Ghaffari, anybody else from RPSL? Anything you'd like to say? Otherwise, we can close the meeting. All right. So thank you very much, everybody, and good night.